After my husband died, his golf buddies tried to block me from joining their country club. They said I didn't fit the culture. I'm a black woman who built a $50 million business from nothing. So I bought their club, fired the board, and revoked every membership. This is that story. My name is Denise Crawford. I'm 58 years old. And I own the most exclusive country club in Charlotte, North Carolina, a club that spent 30 years trying to keep me out. I met my husband, James Crawford, in 1987. I was a secretary at a law firm. He was a young attorney, ambitious and brilliant. We fell in love despite the whispers. Interracial marriage wasn't illegal anymore, but in Charlotte's old money circles, it might as well have been. We married in 1989. Small wedding. His family didn't attend. His father, Richard Crawford, told him he was throwing his life away. James didn't care. We built a life together. I went to night school, got my MBA, started a cleaning service in 1992 with $5,000 we'd saved. By 2000, I had 15 commercial clients. By 2010, I had 200 employees and contracts with half the office buildings in Charlotte. Crawford Commercial Services became one of the largest janitorial companies in the Southeast. Revenue, $50 million annually. James was proud. You did this yourself, Denise. Nobody handed you anything. He was right. I'd built it from scratch. Worked 16-hour days. Cleaned toilets myself when employees called in sick. Negotiated contracts. Managed payroll. Everything. But in Charlotte's elite circles, I was still just the cleaning lady. James belonged to Piedmont Country Club, an old institution where Charlotte's wealthy played golf, made deals, and perpetuated their little empire of exclusivity. He'd been a member since 1995. His father had sponsored him. It was transactional. Richard wanted James to have access to the right people. James tried to add me to the membership in 2000. The board rejected it. Spousal additions require unanimous board approval, they told him. We didn't achieve unanimity. Translation: someone on the board didn't want a black woman in their club. James was furious. This is discrimination. It's illegal. It's a private club, they said. We have the right to control our membership. James quit in protest. But I stopped him. Don't. You need this for business. Don't sacrifice your career for me. So he stayed. And I stayed away. For 20 years, James golfed at Piedmont while I built my business. He tried again in 2005. Again in 2010. Again in 2015. Each time, rejected. Each time, no explanation. In 2020, James had a heart attack on the golf course at Piedmont. He died before the ambulance arrived. He was 63 years old. At the funeral, the men from Piedmont came. Expressed condolences. Told me how much they'd respected James. I nodded. Said thank you. Buried my husband. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from Piedmont Country Club. Dear Mrs. Crawford, we regret to inform you that your late husband's membership has been terminated effective immediately. Please remove any personal items from his locker within 30 days. Our condolences on your loss. They couldn't even wait a month. I drove to the club. Asked to speak with the membership director. I'd like to apply for membership, I told him. My husband was a member for 25 years. I'd like to continue his legacy. The director, a thin man named Preston Whitmore, looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Crawford, I'm very sorry for your loss. But membership applications are subject to board approval, and frankly, given your history of being declined. You're saying no. I'm saying the board is unlikely to approve your application. Because I'm black. Because, he stopped. Careful. Because the club has a certain culture. And we want members who fit that culture. I leaned forward. Mr. Whitmore, I own a company worth $50 million. I employ over 300 people. I've donated to this city's charities, schools, and hospitals. What part of your culture doesn't fit me? He smiled thinly. I think you know the answer to that, Mrs. Crawford. I left. And I started making calls. Piedmont Country Club was a private institution, but it wasn't invincible. I hired a research firm to pull everything they could find on the club's financials, ownership structure, and membership. What I learned was illuminating. Piedmont was struggling. Membership had declined 30% over the past decade. Younger people didn't want to pay $100,000 initiation fees and $15,000 annual dues to play golf with old men who talked about the good old days. The club had taken on debt to renovate the clubhouse. $12 million. Secured by the property. And they were behind on payments. The bank holding the loan? First Charlotte Financial. I knew the CEO. I'd cleaned his office buildings for 15 years. I called him. Marcus, it's Denise Crawford. I need a favor. By November 2020, I knew everything. Piedmont owed $9.8 million on their loan. They were 4 months behind on payments. The bank was considering foreclosure. The club's board was desperate. They tried to raise dues. Members revolted. They tried to sell naming rights to the golf course. Members vetoed it. They were out of options. So I made them an offer. I created an LLC, Crawford Holdings. Capitalized it with $15 million from my business reserves. Then I approached the board with a proposal. Crawford Holdings would pay off the club's debt in full. In exchange, I would assume ownership of the club's property and assets. The club could continue operating, but under new management. Members would keep their memberships, for now. The board met in emergency session. They had no choice. It was my offer or foreclosure. They accepted. On January 15, 2021, I became the sole owner of Piedmont Country Club. My first act as owner, I fired the entire board. Preston Whitmore, the membership director who told me I didn't fit the culture, terminated. The golf pro who'd looked the other way when members used racial slurs, terminated. The dining manager who'd seated me in the back corner the one time James brought me for dinner, terminated. I hired new staff. Diverse staff. Professional staff who understood that a country club in 2021 couldn't operate like it was 1955. Then I called a mandatory membership meeting. 200 members showed up. Angry. Indignant. I stood at the podium in the ballroom where I'd never been allowed to attend events. Good evening. My name is Denise Crawford, and I'm the new owner of Piedmont Country Club. I know many of you are concerned about changes. Let me be clear about my vision. I paused. Let them stew. This club has a long history of exclusion, of treating people like me as outsiders, of maintaining a culture that's really just code for keeping out anyone who doesn't look like you or come from your background. Murmurs. Angry faces. That ends today. Effective immediately, Piedmont will operate under new membership policies. We will actively recruit diverse members. We will have zero tolerance for discriminatory behavior. And we will be a place where everyone, regardless of race, religion, or background, feels welcome. A man stood up, red-faced. You can't do this. This is our club. No, I said calmly. It's my club. You're just members. And memberships can be revoked. Another man stood. This is tyranny. We'll sue. You're welcome to try. But I own the property. I own the facilities. I own the golf course. You have memberships, which are privileges, not rights. And privileges can be taken away. I looked around the room. So here's what's going to happen. You have 60 days to decide if you want to stay under the new policies or leave. If you leave, you'll receive a prorated refund of your dues. If you stay, you'll sign a new membership agreement that includes strict anti-discrimination clauses. Silence. Meeting adjourned. Over the next 60 days, 112 members resigned. Good riddance. I recruited new members. Doctors, lawyers, business owners who'd been excluded from places like Piedmont for decades. Within 6 months, membership was back to full capacity. Within a year, we had a waiting list. The club became more profitable than it had been in 20 years. And I made one more change. I renamed the main dining room the James Crawford Memorial Dining Room. A plaque on the wall reads, dedicated to a man who believed everyone deserved a seat at the table. 3 years later, I'm still running Piedmont. The old guard is gone. The new members are thriving. And last month, I received a letter from Richard Crawford, James's father, the man who didn't attend our wedding, who told his son he was throwing his life away by marrying me. The letter was short. Denise, I was wrong about you. About everything. I'm sorry, Richard. I read it, folded it, put it in a drawer. Some apologies come too late, but some victories are worth the wait.